guys, just doing the continuation of Belle, the Mysterious Message. So, chapter 3. Early the next morning, there was a sharp knock on the bedroom door. Belle woke up with a start. She was having a strange dream. She and her father were battling a dragon with the help of an invisible princess. She yawned and stretched. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the birds were singing. For a moment, she thought she was at home in her own bed. Then she realized with a pang that she was still a prisoner in the beast's castle. But she wasn't sad for long, for she had just remembered that there was a missing chapter to find. "Come in," she said, sitting up in bed. The door swung open and Cogsworth stood in the doorway. He looked a little embarrassed to be disturbing Belle while she was still in her nightgown. "I beg your pardon, mademoiselle," he said, "but breakfast is served in the dining room." As the head of the household, it was Cogsworth's job to make sure that everything was running just as his master liked. And the master had been up early and already had his breakfast. He had seemed unhappy that Bill wasn't there to join him. Oh, sorry. Picture. Cogsworth glared at Lumiere. The candelabra was sound asleep. "Wake up, you lazy ball of wax," he cried. "Oh, please don't get angry with Lumiere," said Belle. "It's my fault, Cogsworth," she said in a soothing voice. "I kept him up late last night reading a book." What? Lumiere leaped up and nearly fell off the bedside table. "Ah, good morning," he said pleasantly to Belle. He scowled at Cogsworth. "Interrupting my beauty sleep again, you overgrown pocket watch." "We'll be down in a minute," Belle told the mantel clock, trying to smooth things over between the two. Then she picked up the book on the nightstand. "I do wonder if we'll ever find that missing chapter," she said out loud. Idly, she began to flip through the book. Cogsworth was interested. Despite himself, the book in Belle's hands looked oddly familiar. Belle noticed him staring. She held the book out. "Cogsworth, do you know anything about this book?" she asked. Cogsworth walked into the room. "As if I have time for this nonsense," he muttered. "Breakfast is waiting." But there was a twinkle of excitement in his eye. "Why, bless my clock springs!" he exclaimed when he got a closer look at the book's cover. "That was the master's when he was a young lad." He shook his head. "But it has been missing for years." "What else can you tell us, Cogsworth?" asked Lumiere. Cogsworth put his hands together, deep in thought. "All I remember is that the master's tutor asked him to read this book and write a report. And all the master wanted to do was play with his toy soldiers." He cleared his throat. "The master was a little, well, short-tempered at the time. Youth, you know." Belle hid a small smile. "So the master threw the book across the room, and an entire section of it fell out," Cogsworth continued. "The tutor was disappointed and took the book and the toy soldiers away. My was the master angry after that. That's all I remember." He shook his head at the memory. "And here it is after all these years. Where on earth did you find it?" "Under a bookshelf in the library," Belle said. She opened the book to show him where the missing section was. To everyone's surprise, a slip of paper fell out and drifted to the floor. Cogsworth rushed over and picked it up. Lumiere hopped down from the table and tried to pull the paper out of Cogsworth's hand. Belle watched in alarm. It looked as if they would rip it in two. Excuse me," Belle cried. "I'll take that." She jumped out of bed and held out her hand. Lumiere let go, and Cogsworth fell to the floor. The mantel clock stood up, brushed himself off, and handed it over, a blush spreading over his clock face. Belle smoothed out the paper and took a close look. "I think it's a note," she exclaimed. "Could it be a clue?" "Read it, mademoiselle, read it," begged Lumiere. Here's the picture of them fighting. Belle read the note. Young master, destroying books in fits of rage will not be tolerated. If you want the final chapter back, you must find it. This is the first clue of several. Solve this, and you will be on your way to discovering how the story ends. Signed, Monsieur Lebel. She flipped the note over. The clue is written on the other side, she said excitedly. Cogsworth cleared his throat. As head of this household, may I suggest that we meet after breakfast to read the first clue? Mademoiselle, you need to eat. Lumiere and I must attend to a few household duties. Then we will be ready to begin the search. Lumiere sighed. Party pooper, he said. Belle smiled at Cogsworth. I think Cogsworth is right. We'll all think better after a good breakfast, she said. Cogsworth grinned. He liked it when he was right. I'll see you after breakfast, Belle said. Then the search shall begin. And there's the note. Pretty cool. Chapter 4. Good morning, my dear, Mrs. Potts said cheerfully as Belle walked into the dining room. A spot of tea for you? Yes, thank you, said Belle. She sat at the table, unfolded a crisp white napkin, and placed it on her lap. The note was in her apron pocket. Her fingers were itching to pull it out and read it, but she decided it was only fair to wait until everyone was together. Chip hopped over, a big smile on his little face. Good morning, Belle, he cried. Good morning, Chip, said Belle. As she began to eat her breakfast, she told the little teacup and his mother about the mysterious book with the missing chapter. Chip was wide-eyed. A mystery? He exclaimed. How exciting! I am an excellent detective, he said, bragging. Mama, can I help her? Can I? Can I? If Mademoiselle says it's all right, Mrs. Potts told him, but I don't want you getting in the way. I'd be honored, said Belle. I'm meeting Cogsworth and Lumiere after breakfast to read the first clue. Will you join us? Chip jumped up so high he spilled a little tea on the tablecloth, but Mrs. Potts was so pleased to see her son happy that she didn't say a word about it. After breakfast, Mrs. Potts tidied up. Lumiere, Cogsworth, and Chip gathered on the table in front of Belle. This is very exciting, no? Asked Lumiere. Yes, Chip said with a giggle. Belle pulled out the paper, smoothed it on the table, and read it out loud. To find this clue, you'll be hard put. On a dark gray night, it's underfoot. Belle read the clue to herself again, then looked up slowly. What could it mean? She wondered. The clock, the candelabra, and the small teacup with the chip all I'm sorry. I was about to say Chip the teacup. Anyway, and the small teacup with the chip all stared back at her blankly. Cogsworth cleared his throat. He said. This is more difficult than I had imagined. The mantel clock paced back and forth. Let's start at the beginning. A clue is hidden somewhere in this castle. It will lead us to another clue, and another, until we find the missing book chapter. He spun around and stared at everyone. Are you with me so far? He asked. Yes, Lumiere and Chip replied. Belle nodded, hiding a smile. Oops, did I show you guys? I don't think. Yeah, hold on one second. Okay, there's the picture. Sorry about that. The mantel clock was taking this hunt very seriously. Cogsworth continued to pace. We need to think of something that would be under your feet on a dark night, he said. Any suggestions? A rug? Suggested Chip. A rug, Cogsworth repeated. He looked at Belle. What do you think? That's a good guess, Chip, Belle said. But a rug is always under your feet, whether it's night or day, she explained gently. Cogsworth nodded. As I thought, it is not a rug. If it is a gray night, Perhaps the clue is saying that it is raining? Exclaimed Lumiere. Could it be a doormat? Cogsworth scolded. We don't have a doormat, he said, rolling his eyes at the candelabra. Have you ever seen a castle with a doormat? Well, do you have a better idea? Lumiere asked, poking him in the chest. Belle stood up. Maybe if we walked around the castle, we'd get an idea, she suggested. Everyone thought that was a good plan. They left the dining room and began to wander the halls of the castle. They walked and walked. They passed by big statues, splendid paintings, and beautiful tapestries, but nothing that would be underfoot on any night, gray or otherwise. This is a very big castle, Belle said. Finally the four came to a stop in the hall of armor. Dozens of suits of armor lined the walls on both sides. Belle sighed. I feel like the clue is so close, she cried, like it is right under our noses. The three nodded in agreement. The only question was, where? Little Chip glanced around the hallway. He loved looking at the suits of armor, imagining the brave knights who must have worn them long ago. Suddenly he realized something. Hey, he shouted. These nights look pretty dark and gray to me. Chip, that's it, Belle cried. You did it. And if the clue is underfoot, Cogsworth began, then the clue must be under the feet of one of the suits of armor, finished Lemire. Let's start looking. Belle knelt in front of the first suit of armor and ran her hand underneath one of the feet. To her surprise, the suit of armor began to shake and quiver. She drew back her hand in alarm. What's going on? She asked. Enchanted as well, said Cogsworth, with a shrug. And ticklish, too, it looks like. They went up one side of the hallway, peering under the feet of each suit of armor, but there wasn't a clue to be found. Next they began searching those on the other side. Finally they reached the very last suit of armor. They looked at each other. This is it, said Belle. It's gotta be here. She felt under the left foot. The ticklish suit of armor began to shake and squeaking away. Needs oil, said Cogsworth. He never forgot his head of household duties. Belle took a deep breath. Then she reached under the right foot, and there it was. She held it up. Hooray! Shouted Chip. We did it, said Cogsworth. What does it say? Lumiere wanted to know. Belle read. It's big, it's grand, for all to see. You'll find it under number 73. Everyone stared. Huh? Said Chip. Belle patted the little cup. She knew exactly how he felt. Totally confused. And there's that picture. And then this one's for chapter 5, but probably can only read these two. So, that was chapters 3 and 4, and tomorrow I'm going to come back on and read chapters 5 and 6. I'm all intrigued now. I want to know what happens when they find the next clue. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.